Welcome to People Doing Good for Others, where we honor and praise those who truly make significant contributions in our communities. I'm Gary York, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. I want to thank Wilkes Communications and RiverStreet Productions and 100.9 WIFM for this honor. Our special guest today is Ms. Jennifer Furr. She's the executive director of the Wilkes Heritage Museum. She's been in that role for 13 years. She's a native of Mount Gilead, a graduate of Appalachian State University, and a wonderful leader in our community. Good morning to you, Ms. Furr.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's an honor to have you. And let's start with your calling for this wonderful contribution that you make for our community. How'd you get into wanting to work with people in the heritage that we enjoy?
Well, I've always loved history. I was fortunate to have really great history teachers growing up. And when I was attending Appalachian, I didn't feel like I had a calling to teach history. So I talked to my academic advisor, and she opened the world of public history to me and introduced me to museums, and I just fell in love.
Wow. So after graduating from Appalachian, you had a couple of stops, and how'd you find us?
Well, actually, after I graduated from Appalachian, I did a 6-month internship at Fort Defiance in neighboring Caldwell County. I loved working with Becky Phillips, who's still the director there, and after my internship ended, I sent my resume all over the state, and I landed at Gold Mine, which is a state historic site in Cabarrus County. I worked there for 6 years. And actually, it was Becky at Fort Defiance who told me about the job opportunity here in Wilkes at the new Wilkes Heritage Museum. And that's what led me to Wilkes.
Do you remember coming here first day?
I do. Actually, when I was interviewed, they interviewed me in the little rock building beside the Wilkes Heritage Museum, the old courthouse, because they were still doing renovations. And they didn't actually show me the building until I accepted the job. And then I walked in and I was like, what have I done? It was a major undertaking.
Oh my goodness.
It was, I think the organization, we raised $2.4 million to renovate the old 1902 courthouse and convert it into the Wilkes Heritage Museum. And when I came on board, they were still in that process of doing the renovations. So I was so fortunate to see the transformation of what it was to what it is now. And it was just a blessing.
I'm just amazed each opportunity that I have to visit, and I always see something. Yesterday there was something about filming in there in the lobby.
Yes.
Share that with us.
We work a lot with school children, not only high school, middle school, elementary school, college students as well. And as you know, a lot of our high school seniors, they have to do a senior project in order to graduate. And so our film exhibit that we have was a senior project from a young man from West High School.
Where did he find those items?
Well, he did a lot of research.
Wow.
We went to the Liberty. A lot of the artifacts we got from the Liberty Theater, and then also there were some other people in the community that had old movie posters and things like that, movies that were shown in theaters here in Wilkes County. And we were able to either get the originals or copies and put them on display.
Wow. Ms. Jennifer Furr, there are a lot of significant happenings right now. You talked about doing some revamping and remodeling. Tell us about where we're going right now with some innovation, if you will.
Okay. Well, we've got a lot of activity going on around the museum. If you've driven down downtown Wilkesboro in the last year, you see construction vehicles and all sorts of things going on. We are in the heart of downtown Wilkesboro, historic Wilkesboro, and so we are one of the main focuses for phase 1 of the town's revitalization project, which incorporates the open air market site, which has been completed, and it filters into the lawn at the museum, which is what they're working on right now. And to kind of dovetail with what the town is doing, the museum has also undertaken what we call our preservation campaign, because we want the inside of our building to reflect the good things that are going on the outside as well. So we've worked very closely with our representative from the State Historic Preservation Office to see how we can revamp the old courtroom to make it a more flexible space, expand our exhibit area with our Blue Ridge Music Hall of Fame, and still maintain the integrity of the museum, the historic easement, the way it looked in 1902. So we are going to undergo, hopefully in January, begin this process of revitalizing our old courtroom.
Now it's upstairs.
It's upstairs in the museum. We're going to remove the chairs that are in there now. They're not original to the building. That will give us an opportunity to have movable chairs, more comfortable seating, so that we can have different types of venues there that we're not able to have right now. We want to have all of our special events and our fundraising efforts at the museum, because that is, of course, our heart and soul. And to go along with that, we're also going to be doing some renovations at the old jail, which was built in 1859, and the Captain Robert Cleveland Log Home, which was built in 1779. Both of those buildings need new roofs, and some of the logs at the Cleveland House also need to be replaced. So we want to really focus on preserving what we have, taking good care of it, and ensuring in the future that it will be continued to be able to be taken care of.
Expand the Cleveland House a little bit. I'm so interested in that. Just tell us about the militia and some of the exciting things were happening in, what, 1770?
Well, the house was originally built in 1779 in the western part of Wilkes County in Purlear at the very base of Rendezvous Mountain. Captain Robert Cleveland, along with his brother Colonel Benjamin Cleveland, belonged to the Wilkes Militia. During the American Revolution, they led troops from Wilkes all the way down to Kings Mountain and fought at the Battle of Kings Mountain, which was a turning point for the American Revolution. It turned the tide of the war in favor of the Patriots. So it really opened the way for our freedom. And we celebrate that every year with an annual OVTA Day, what we call our Over Mountain Victory celebration for 4th grade students. We partner with the Wilkes-Surrey Militia of the OVTA along with the National Park Service. And we have a special event for 4th graders. They come and they get to experience 18th century living skills. They learn the story of the Over Mountain men. This year we had one day in Wilkes, we have one day in Elkin. And depending on the geographic location, you know, Wilkes and Surrey, they kind of overlap in certain parts.
Sure.
So the eastern side of the county, those elementary schools, they go to Elkin. And then we have the other schools. We had 444th graders in September for this day. And it was absolutely...
At one time?
At one time.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and we were actually able to utilize the open air market site for this event this year. Wow. And it was wonderful. The teachers loved it.
I'm impressed by the Wilkesboro community, how it's embraced the museum and the little square there, if you will, and what an incredible effort, you know, to bring people together, a sense of community there. So, how did you get the building here?
Well,
the home.
It was actually, we had the opportunity, my organization had the opportunity to purchase the building around 1985. And what they did, they worked again closely with the State Historic Preservation Office. They took the cabin apart, log by log, they numbered the logs, and they were able to reassemble it on site there in downtown Wilkesboro. Even the 2 stone fireplaces, the chimneys, they were taken apart and rebuilt by hand.
How wonderful.
Yes.
Upcoming events, can you get us started about exciting things going to be happening?
Yes, we continuously try to have events throughout the year to involve the community and bring new people in. This Saturday, October 14th, from 2 to 8, we're going to have our very first Music and Moonshine Day. We'll have the band Virginia Lina. That's our house band for our Blue Ridge Music Hall of Fame ceremony every year. They're absolutely fantastic musicians. It's composed of David Johnson, Eric Ellis.
David Johnson. Wow.
Scott Gentry and Scott Freeman. And David and Eric Ellis, they're both already inducted into our Blue Ridge Music Hall of Fame. All 4 are just phenomenal, nice guys, very talented. They'll play 3 different sets of music. And then we've invited Call Distillery to come in. They'll have a booth, and they're also going to talk about the history of moonshine. Because, you know, that was a very important part of the history of Wilkes County. We have a moonshine display in the museum. And we have, of course, one of Junior Johnson's early race cars on display as well. And a lot of people may not realize that moonshine is kind of how NASCAR today got its start. You know, with the running the moonshine and seeing whose car was fastest. And to go along with that, as long as it doesn't rain, we're also going to have some moonshine cars on display.
Wow.
Yes, so I'm very excited about that. And we have 2 more ghost tour dates in October. That's a special event we do usually once a month, May through September, and then we have special dates in October. And that's where we have special tour guides that have taken the history of downtown and they've collected folk tales, ghost stories, things that people have seen or heard in some of the older buildings in downtown, and they've created a script for that. It's a 90-minute walking tour. And so they go to the old jail, the Cleveland House, the Torrey Oak site, and several other buildings in downtown Wilkesboro, and they tell not only the history, but some of the ghost stories as well.
Wow.
And they wear costume guided tours and carry lanterns, and it's very neat. People really love it.
Jennifer Furr is the executive director of our wonderful museum. We are under construction, and it's
Yes.
been it's going to be a wonderful gift, and will be completed before long. And you mentioned something about bricks.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
One of our best fundraisers we've ever had, one of the programs I'm very proud of, is our Veterans Honor Walk brick walkway, and that will be going back in place in the front lawn. We've had lots of phone calls, people who've purchased bricks in honor or memory of a veteran. That holds a very special place in their heart. I actually have 2. I have one for my husband and I have one for my father.
Wow.
And because of all of the construction, those bricks had to be taken up. We didn't want them to be damaged, and they've been safely stored at a town facility for a year. And they will be going back into the ground, hopefully very soon. We just have to get the grading and all of the landscaping and the splash pad. They're going to put in a splash pad. We're going to bring our cannon back. But I think a lot of people have been under the misinterpretation that we are just going to do away with the veteran bricks, and that is not the case at all.
No.
At all. That's very special to us, and we feel like our veterans need to be honored and respected for the contributions they did to our country. So we're going to have those bricks put back into place around the obelisk that's in our yard. And actually, the way that they're formatting it, they're going to give us space to add more bricks so we can make it even larger than it already is. We have 1,600 bricks that have already
1,600.
that have been purchased
Wow.
over the last 10 to 12 years.
Good.
And we'll have space for about 300 to 350 more. And what I've been told is if we use all of that space, then we'll be able to expand it even more.
So the opportunity to participate in that initiative is still available.
It is. We're continually to sell the bricks. They're $100 each. You get a nice certificate suitable for framing. And on the brick, it's engraved with your veteran's name, dates of service. You know, you have a certain amount of space that you have to work with, but you know, you get to pick and choose what you would have on your brick.
Wow.
And then they're placed in the walkway.
As a career, there are opportunities for interns, and you were sharing with me earlier that last summer or this summer, some youngsters came to help you. Tell us about what was going on.
I was so fortunate. Last January, ASU held an internship fair. And so I was able to go to that internship fair and pass out information about the museum and applications to encourage students to become interns at the museum. And I was fortunate enough I had 4 interns this summer.
4?
4. Wow. I had one intern, he was a recent graduate from Western Carolina, and he wants to go into the museum field as well, so he wanted to get some hands-on experience. So I had Joshua Jolly for a while there, and then Leah Bakella, she is a marketing intern from ASU. And that's something I'd never had before, was a marketing intern. And my, of course, background is in history, so I learned a lot from Leah, and she was able to put us on Twitter and do some Facebook stuff and all of the social media. She was very good at that. Yes, and then Miss Ashley Dancy, she is a public history major at ASU. She's hoping to graduate either this December or next May. And she did a phenomenal job with our collections. She took in artifacts, she rearranged some of our exhibits. She was also able to expand our furniture exhibit with some things from the Johnston family from American Drew.
Oh my goodness.
So that was very good. She was very talented, very hard worker. And then I also had an intern from Wilkes Vocational. He was a recent graduate from West Wilkes High School, and he was my maintenance intern. And that was so important. He did cleaning duties, light maintenance, and with all the construction that we have going around, you know, red mud is just flying everywhere. So it was very important for him to come in and keep everything shipshape and clean. And that's one of the great comments that we got throughout the summer from our visitors, is how clean everything was, despite what was going on outside. So he did his job. He did a very good job.
So these interns were impact folks then. This
Yes.
really mattered.
Yes, it's amazing. You know, there's only 2 employees, myself and one other.
Why don't you just go on with the intern? It's a good time for us to make sure we highlight those who give in a special way from the volunteer level, and that we have paid staff of 2. I'm just in awe of that.
Yes, last year alone we had over 12,000 visitors to the museum with 2 paid staff members and
Wow.
a ton of wonderful volunteers. We couldn't do anything without our volunteers. You'd asked me earlier about my board of directors. I have 33 board of directors. They're all very active. I know I get a lot of raised eyebrows. You have that many on your board? Well, I do, but they're all very important. They all have their special talents and their interests, and you need a lot of diversity in order to reach a wider audience. And they all bring really great ideas, things that I would never think of, or maybe someone else wouldn't think of. You know, so it's good to have that pool of energy and those ideas to use and to utilize.
Wow.
And just for instance, for OVTA Day, when we had 440 fourth graders on site, you know, I had 20 people doing stations, 18th century living stations, volunteers doing that, plus about 10 or 12 other volunteers.
Now, a station, what does that mean?
We had different, you could call them booths, but we call them
Yes,
stations,
okay.
18th century
All right,
stations,
all right.
and the students would rotate from station to station, and each person had their own different part, that they would tell a different part of the story.
Tell the stories.
Tell the stories, introduce 18th century living lifestyles and things like that. So, you know, we couldn't do anything without our volunteers. They're so key and so integral to what we do as a nonprofit.
So if we have a guest watching us today and would have some interest in joining as a volunteer, how would he or how would she connect with you, Jennifer Furr?
Well, they could either stop by the museum or give us a call. My coworker, Diana Perry, she is in charge of our volunteer recruitment. So they would just need to talk to Diana, and she would get information about what their interests are. We definitely need more people to come in and help us with our school group tours. We have all the 3rd graders come in for field trips. And what we do when they come in is we split them into smaller groups, and we have tour guides that lead them through all the different rooms and all the different buildings that we have. And sometimes when you have a large school like Miller's Creek that may have over 100 students at one time, you need a lot of volunteers.
Yes.
That you can pull from and to be able to walk through, because they're usually there for 2 to 2.5 hours at a time.
It'd be a good time to give hours of operation to the museum.
Right now we're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 4. We have special hours on Saturdays for special events and by appointment. We also have groups that can rent our facilities if they need to for meeting space. We've had concerts, we've had weddings. All sorts of things. Yes, we've had a couple of weddings.
Good.
Yes, we have. So we try to be very flexible.
Okay. Jennifer Furr, I want to turn just a little bit, and you're doing an incredible service piece, if you will, for the town of Wilkesboro. And when I heard about that, I said, wow, what a gift to know that, to pick Jennifer Furr to help out with this. And tell us a little bit about what that might entail.
Well, Mayor Mike Inscore approached me earlier in the summer, and he had started this program about Wilkes citizens and asking people to come in and share their stories about growing up in Wilkes, specifically Wilkesboro, and sharing what it was like when they were growing up, how things have changed, if anything has stayed the same. And it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to get to know people in the community that maybe I didn't really know that well before, getting to learn something more about them and to capture those experiences and those reminiscences on film for others. So it's a great
So you come
archival
here,
piece. Yes,
right
we come
here in
here.
our studio where we sit at this moment.
We do. We do all the interviews here. I've done 5 so far. I've got 2 lined up for tomorrow.
So you're making new friends.
I am.
And wonderful. I guess we're going to archive incredible folks who have mattered in special ways, who know things, who have stories.
Yes, who grew up here and have seen a lot of changes over time and are able to talk about that.
I heard about that through the mayor, and I was just really inspired by it, that we would care enough, you know, to have this neat heritage, if you will, for people. Let's talk about Native American impact here in the county and some of the things you're doing for that restoration.
Okay. One of our exhibits that we have at the Wilkes Heritage Museum is our Native American exhibit, and that's one of the areas that we would like to tweak and expand and catalog a little bit better. One of my volunteers, Dr. Larry Kilby, his son, David Kilby, is an archaeologist who grew up here in Wilkes, but he now teaches. He's a professor in Texas. And when he comes home in the fall to visit his family, we are going to try to get together so that he can look at the artifacts that we have on display and help me to identify them properly and get better labels on them. And of course, you know, this is an area of the museum that I would like to see expanded with additional artifacts. So if people who live here in Wilkes are out on their property and they find a projectile point or a piece of pottery or something like that, I would very much love to have a look at that and maybe incorporate it into our collections and expand that. A lot of people may not realize that European settlers were not the first people to ever be here in Wilkes County. It was already heavily populated by Native Americans. So we really want to get that story told as well.
Wow. And he's coming when?
I hope he will be able to come home the week of Thanksgiving.
Are there specific areas in the county that a lot of these artifacts come? Do you know?
It's various. I know Appalachian State as well as Wake Forest have done digs here in the county in different areas. So it could be anywhere.
Jennifer, first share this question. Phone rings, and it's maybe a visitor or tourist who's coming through, and they have questions about things. Can you share some? Just so we get a lot of phone calls about a particular area. Is that a good question?
Well, it is. We get a lot of phone calls about people who are thinking of coming to Wilkes County on vacation, or they're going to be passing through and they want to know, well, what's there for us to do? We're going to be there for a day or a couple of days. What's available? What are your hours? How long should we spend there? What else is there to do? I think people are really surprised, especially when they come to the museum, about how much we have. They may think, oh, this is a small town museum. I'll be here maybe 20, 30 minutes. And they end up staying half a day or all day. We have had some visitors that come in the morning, they tour the museum, they go to eat lunch locally, they come back and they tour the old jail and the Cleveland House, and they make a whole day of it.
Wow.
They don't realize how much we have. And that's just our buildings. You know, that doesn't include all of the other resources that we have here in Wilkes County that they can go and see and do. So we like to share that. I mean, it's very much a partnership with all of the other things to do in Wilkes County. We have a great brochure rack and an area where others can put their information, and we can share that with our visitors because we want them to stay, we want them to have a good time, and we want them to come back. And you'd be amazed at how many people come from out of state here on vacation, and then they go back home and they tell their friends and their neighbors, oh, we had such a great time in Wilkes. They're very hospitable. They have all this fun stuff to do. And then the next summer, their neighbors come to visit. And we say, well, how did you hear about us? Well, our neighbors were here last summer and they had such a great time, so we decided to come too. That
Jennifer
happens.
Furr, when is there a most visited part of the building? Is there an
Everybody's-
exhibit that, maybe just mention, say 3 things. Will you do that for me?
Well, everybody has a different interest. Most of the time when people come to Wilkes, they know we have a moonshine background. So they want to see moonshine stills, and they hear we have Junior Johnson's race car. They want to see that. They also know the story of Tom Dooley, so they definitely want to see the old jail. So those are probably 2 of the big things right there. But then they start looking around and they see how much other stuff we have, and they learn about our roots with the American Revolution and our local militiamen and what they did. We have a wonderful military room upstairs that runs the whole gamut from, we have a special room all about the American Revolution and the militia that marched up to Kings Mountain. And then we have a separate area that talks from the Civil War all the way up through Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we have military uniforms and weapons and photographs and medals and all sorts of things that we've collected. We have a large military collection. In fact, we have so much that we're not able to display it all at one time, and we rotate things on and off display.
Didn't I see a dentist chair?
Yes, you did. We have a medical room. It's divided into 3 parts. We talk about medical doctors. We have all sorts of instruments. I even have an amputation kit.
Do you really?
I do. And then we have a dentistry item where we have the dental chair that you saw. We have dental tools and things like that. And we also have pharmaceutical, where we talk about the herb industry here. And we have herbs on display that the pharmacists would take to make their own compounds and their medicines and things like that.
Wow. Back up just a minute. If a person called and said, could I have a guided tour? Would a volunteer maybe meet with them?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
How would that work?
Well, if they call in advance, and usually we always have someone there. We always have a staff member and at least 1 volunteer, because we always give guided tours of the old jail and the Cleveland House anyway.
Gotcha.
Those are offered every day that we're open throughout the day. So those are automatically guided. And
Okay.
if someone would like a guided tour through the museum, we accommodate that as well.
How about opportunities to make contributions of cash or gifts to fund operations? How would one do that?
Well, as a nonprofit, we're always asking for donations. We're getting ready to start our membership drive in
Okay.
November. So becoming a member of the museum is one great way to give. All of that, all the funds raised through membership goes into operating to help pay the light bill, keep the doors open, insurance, all the pesky little bills that you get in every day. And we have different levels, different tiers for that, and that's an ongoing throughout the year. We just have a big kickoff every November for renewals and things like that.
Okay.
Then with our preservation campaign, people can also donate to that. You can specify what you would like your gift to be towards, all sorts of things.
Okay.
And
Tell us-
sponsorships for special events as well.
Good. Let's talk about the membership drive and how important that can be to the progress and the success of the Heritage Museum.
Well, our members they're our heart and soul. That's one of our main sources of funding for our operating expenses every year. And with your membership, you get passes to the museum. I had some members come in on Monday and they had out-of-town guests, so they were able to use their passes, bring in their guests, and tour them and show them around. And that's one thing I like. I said, don't ever throw your passes away, because if you don't use them, give them to someone who can use them, someone who's never been there before. Open their eyes, let them see what we have here, and then that word of mouth will spread, and more people will come to know about the museum and want to come in and see it. So I encourage our members to bring their family and friends and to use those passes that they get for being members. And they also get a discount in our gift shop. We have a wonderful gift shop with books and pottery and CDs from local artists and old-timey toys. But books, definitely, that's our big seller in our gift shop.
How exciting this 30 minutes has been for us today, for Wilkes Communications and RiverStreet Productions and for WIFM. And what a vital person. You have such energy and you bring excitement to your career.
Well,
and
thank you.
Share with us the gratitude that you feel for the opportunities that have been provided for you, and especially the Wilkes Heritage Museum.
Well, I feel truly blessed. I have had mentors, wonderful mentors everywhere I've been, and they've helped me along the way. They've taught me so many different things. My board members, my volunteers, they have wonderful experiences that they can impart to me. You're never too old to learn something new. And I try to learn something new from everyone that I meet. And they've really helped to shape me and who I am today, and they keep me going, they boost me. They're my cheerleaders.
From you, I have a great sense of hope for why we're here and this great honor that we have to matter in this community, and promise to do this again for me.
I will. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you very much, Ms. Furr.